Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Hey Precious, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I'm done with the semester, so I'm relieved. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Sure.
Before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, any future aspirations, likes, dislikes, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing.
All right. So my name is Precious Kameni. I'm an international student from Cameroon. I go to UCO, University of Central Oklahoma. So that's it. What do I do for work? I do a little bit of everything, but okay, I'm a dancer. I love to dance. That's not work. That's a hobby that I'm hoping it can become something big that I do full time. But I'm a dancer, so that's one of them. I currently have an internship at a company called InfoSync, where I'm like a revenue specialist, kind of like an accounting role. So yeah, that's what I've been doing pretty much. And what else? I mean, I'm a member of
Anything, any
the.
future aspirations or likes in everyday life, things that you don't like in everyday life, stuff like that.
Okay, okay. So I am a member of the African Student Association. Okay, any future aspirations? I'm doing MIS. My goal with MIS is to get a tech job, maybe become like a software engineer or a database administrator and be able to work from home. I don't want to have to go into work every day, or maybe like, have a hybrid schedule. And another goal of mine would be to have like a dance, I don't know, dance studio where I like to teach people how to dance African moves. So that is like a dream of mine that I really, like to come to fulfillment. To be able to use social media to make a living. So,
Gotcha. Does that sort of interest of wanting to work from home kind of, do you think it'll make it easier for you to pursue your dance career even more?
well, I know like working from home, you still have to get the work done, but I mean, it takes up the commute. So that could be time you can put towards content creation and just, it gives you a little bit more time on your hands to like maybe create or learn a new dance move. So yeah, I think it's going to facilitate to be able to do both. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying, and like from the perspective of time management, it makes it a lot more easier for you to manage your time better and dedicate it to multiple things rather than losing about an hour to 2 hours and just traveling to and from work.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. I see what you're saying. But do you
Yeah.
feel like you developed that interest in work from home after we've been through the past 2 years?
Yes, most definitely. Seeing a lot of people. I mean, some jobs, like let's say you work at a warehouse or you were a nurse or doctor, you really can. You have to go in, but it really stemmed up during COVID. Like it made us see like we don't have to have a physical location. We can literally work from home, and that saves cost for everybody. Gas. That saves the cost of gas for like the corporate for like the workers, and then cost of like owning a building for the company. So but I mean, it really came to mind because it was a big luxury before COVID. But after COVID, it's like the new what's up. Like if you're not working remote, then what's happening? So,
So do you feel like we're headed in that direction where we're going to be in a workforce that mainly works from home?
there's a 50-50 because I also like pay attention to the news and I see they talk about like they want people to go back to work. Now I don't know how that works for the economy. Maybe having a physical location is more beneficial to the corporation and the government, but I'm seeing they're pushing for people to like kind of go back to work. But from the way I'm looking at it, it's cheaper. People don't have to go into the office. You don't have to pay no electricity. Like I'm looking at the cost and the savings. So, I mean, if you just ask me, not looking at any news reports and anything, I think it's the way forward. A lot of people are leaving like the fast food chain. There's like a deficiency in like waiters and waitresses. Like we don't have this. Everybody just wants to get like a tech job or some kind of job where they can work from home because it's like more convenient. And then if you have like a baby, you're a new mom. It's like really convenient because you're able to not spend as much on daycare. You can literally like take care of them and still get your work done. So
Mm.
yeah, so
I do see
definitely.
what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. I was getting done.
Oh,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. It's okay. I was just going to say, I do see what you're saying, but I think the challenging part is that there's still a lot of jobs that require physical sort of presence. I suppose to where, like factory jobs or like fast food, for example, and things like that, they
Hmm.
require people to be present in those places at
Yeah,
least
that's
for the
true.
next 30 to 40 years. So,
So we get some
I
robots.
think I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how far we are or how near we are to that time where there's just robots doing everything.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting point you make because while everybody might want to work from home, I don't think we live in a time where it's entirely possible just yet. So it's
Yeah,
probably going to take a little time for us to get there.
that's true. What you said is facts. That it's going to take time because we need people. Sadly, we need people like working. We eat a lot of fast food here in the U.S., so we do need people like working at fast food chains and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. And it's not just fast food chains. It can be a lot of different things, like, be it working in a factory, be it like right now, like Amazon workers, for example.
true.
Unfortunately, I don't want to get into this side of things, but, unfortunately, those are some of the low wage earners too. So I don't know
Not
what that says about
necessarily.
society.
Not
Not fully,
necessarily
yes.
for the I don't know for the retail part of it. Yes, they still want up the pay to what it's supposed to be. That's why people don't want to work because it's. I think retail is really stressful. Like working in retail, you have to deal with attitude. There's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. I feel like they're being underpaid, honestly, because there's a lot that comes with it. Handling like attitude and it's more it's a little bit more difficult, I would say. But like if you work in the warehouses, like Amazon and Hobby Lobby, those are the most popular I know. They pay them pretty good. It's tedious work, so they pay them pretty good. We're looking at 17 to like 20. So they're not underpaid, from what I'll say.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think I don't know if you've come across this, and I mean I don't want to delve too much into this, but we can maybe talk about something else in a bit. But I was just interested in bringing this up. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard about this, but there are stories of some Amazon workers having to go through really like adverse sort of conditions in terms of meeting certain time constraints. So to
Hmm.
make sure that they deliver, like, I'm just using a random example
Yeah.
to sort of mention what I'm trying to, like, this incident.
Yeah.
They have to deliver like 10 different deliveries in like a span of an hour. But if they don't, that affects them in some way. So to make sure that they meet their deadlines, there's stories out there of people like, peeing in bottles or like pooping in bags and things like that. So that's like, I guess, the dark side of it,
Yeah.
of like the Amazon world. So maybe
Yeah.
they're paid more, yes, but I
Okay.
guess
I
that's
get what
also
you're
a
saying.
thing that,
Some
yeah, I guess you
constraints.
can. Right. So that's maybe a question that some people might ask of it. But
Yeah.
anyway, transitioning into more about you, you mentioned that you're interested in dance and wanting to turn that into a career and like an avenue for making money through content creation and social media.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory of being interested in dancing?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about it in a while. I'm a little older now. Um, but I remember since from when I was young, like they would just be like, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like since I was a little girl and like whenever they'll play a good song and it's pretty good, like I wasn't shy. Like I'll come up and dance and like they kind of knew me. I always like stood up. I'm like that's a good question, but I don't really remember. But I know I've loved dance for the longest. Like even if I don't stand up, I'll be moving on my seat. So I'll be like bobbing to the music. So yeah, but since I was little, I have danced. Maybe not on a
Hmm.
platform like Instagram or whatever, but just at home or at parties.
Do you feel like it was an influence from the people around you or from your culture or from TV, for example?
Hmm. Wow, you're asking me a lot of questions I have to think about from the people around me.
I'm just curious. I'm just
Yeah,
wondering if,
I'm
yeah.
thinking too because I have to go back in memory. I'm like, oh my god. So I think it was from TV, and I had a brother. I have an older brother, and he used to. I mean, he doesn't dance anymore because he went to med school and all that good stuff. But I used to dance with my brother, and I mean, my mom wasn't really much of a dancer, but I know like everyone who was pretty much my age was a dancer. We used to love to dance. So I had my brother. We always dance together. We had like a channel called Trace TV back home, and they play like really good songs, and we used to just vibe dance together. So that's what I remember. But I know my mom wasn't much of a dancer. She was way older. But I know like my cousins who were like my age range. We used to dance together. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, like those memories of, I guess, um, dancing at like certain parties or events. Do they stay with you?
Oh yeah, they do. They do. They do. I mean, I was a little shy kid, so I will dance more at home than at parties. But at parties, like whenever it was like the general time, not like I would perform or anything. But when it was like time for everybody, like when they'll say the dance floor is open, I will go on there, and I like that was always the part I waited for, just to go on there and like have fun and like just have fun. It was not more. I wasn't thinking of it like as a way to make money or anything, but just a way to have fun. Like I would dance with my cousins and my sisters. So yeah.
I see. Gotcha. Gotcha. Transitioning more into sort of what you said earlier about wanting to turn this into a career of some sorts and making income through it. Why do you? I guess the first question I could ask is what makes you want to choose that as an avenue?
Well, because I'm looking at other people on the internet, like, I mean, they're better dancers than me, or we're all dancers, and I'm seeing what they're doing and how they're leveling up. Like, growing up in the African community, it's always been like, and especially if you got a chance to come abroad to the US, it's always been like, become a doctor, become a nurse, just like what everybody knows, a lawyer, like the white collar jobs, like what everybody knows. But like seeing dancers, people being able to break through with dance is just like really phenomenal. And knowing that they even make more money than the people with the white collar jobs, it's like it's more like insane. That's like I see, like there's a girl called Just Knife on Instagram, and she created like a dance routine, and that routine trended. I'm telling you, for months. Like every time I got on my Instagram, I saw people doing her dance move, and I was like, "Isn't this cool?" And like dance is just something that like makes. I mean, not everybody. I don't say everybody. Makes most people happy. Just seeing someone on there like vibing to a good song. Because what is a song without the dancer? Nothing. That's what I'll say. The dancers bring the song to life. So just being able to see that we're breaking past those stereotypes, and seeing dancers being able to break through. African dancers, our African music is being put out there, because before it was more like disregarded and this put to the side, but it's like it's gaining center stage. Seeing African dance routines like take over the internet, everyone's doing it. It's just like phenomenal, and I'm just like, if if they give me hope, and that's what pushed me, to want to do like to make dancing like a thing, African dance.
I see. I see. Do you think like in a good way this is probably one of the positives of social media and how it's brought out this space where people can show off their culture, like in your case, show off your roots of dance and such?
Yeah, I mean, social media has its pros and cons, but this has been one of the big pros where we're able to see cultures from all over the world. Because I'll say the African dance I'm talking about is limited to like West African, but there's like East African, Central African, there's different kinds of dance, and social media gives us like that avenue or that platform to be able to see all these. So while I'm living in the US, I'm able to experience like all these beautiful culture just because of social media, like Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Since you mentioned the fact that social media has its pros and cons, I'm curious to get your perspective on this. What do you see as some like major negatives of social media?
Ugh, there's a long list. Just the way I feel the pros and the cons. Like, there's a long list on either side. It leads people to like compare themselves to each other. not to be like content because you get on social media, you see like an influencer, you see I don't know whoever you look at, but you see them and they're living lavish and they have all the Birkin. It kind of leads. It has a lot like it leads people to depression and like it just has a lot of like I feel like you have to be really mentally strong to be on social media to not be like carried away with because there's a lot of fake like I won't say well yeah I'll say fake not everything that you see is real or not everything that is gold is that glitters I don't know if I said that right but it has a lot of downsides it can cause you to compare yourself, it can make you feel like you're behind. Let's say you're 20, I'm 22 years old and I'm going to see a 22-year-old who like owns a company, has Louis Vuitton, has the upper hand in life, and I'm going to be looking at myself. If I wasn't like mentally strong, I'll be like, why can't I have that? Even me as mentally strong, sometimes you're faced with that, but what I decided to do is I've had enough social media for the day and I get off. And I just always remind myself like just because you see it doesn't mean that's how it is behind the scenes. So that's what I always try to tell myself because many times it has been proven that like just because it looks a certain way, it's a brand, it's branded. Doesn't mean that's how it is on the regular. So but I don't know if I really answered your question, but there's a lot. I just listed a few that will lead to like comparison, negative self-talk, depression. I know a few people who do not use social media. I was talking to this one girl, and she was like, she doesn't have social media. I was like, wow. In a world of social media, you don't have social media. It's really crazy, but it really sets them apart too. So
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. You did saying, and you did kind of answer the question. But I do want to ask again. I just want to see how you think about this. Why do you think people compare themselves to each other, be it through social media, excuse me, or in everyday life?
that's a good question. I'm gonna take a minute before I answer this one. Why do I think people compare themselves to each other? I don't know. I'm gonna say what I think. I think like normally we are competitive beings. Sometimes in the good. Sometimes I feel competition is good because it pushes you to work harder. That's how I think of competition. But I don't even know what I'm gonna say. But I just feel like we are competitive people, and sometimes it's good to be competitive to like so that you can improve yourself and you can become better. But on the downside, like there's people who take it to a whole nother level where there's like jealousy and strife, and like, they're like, if I can't be like this person, like I'm gonna kill myself, or I'm just gonna be sad and depressed, and But I feel like we can always look at competition from a positive angle as how to be better. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, they're excelling. I can ask them questions about like, how can I do this better? How can I excel at this and that? Like, if whatever they're doing, maybe they're an influencer, they're a dancer, we can be like, okay, like, how did you get this many followers? How can I improve my content? What do you use for editing? Like, just positive comparison, I'll say.
Right. Because I think it's a fine line between sort of looking at like using the positives of competition to help you versus looking at the negatives to sort of pull yourself down. Right? It's a separation that is not that easy to make sometimes.
That's
And
true.
for that, I think you do need to sort of be aware of how you're looking at certain things and sort of being aware of your thoughts, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, I think some of it also comes from like an evolutionary sort of arc of us as humans and sort of competition and survival and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you were to look at it from the perspective of evolutionary psychology, but it's still kind of interesting. It's still kind of interesting why, even though we know it can be bad, we sort of still tend to do it and
It's
not necessarily. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really hard not to compare. If we're gonna be honest, we do like the average human will compare to someone else. I just feel like it's something that's inborn in us, but we just have to make an attempt not to let it get the best of us. I feel Because when you see someone else walk through, you're gonna be like, let's say a really pretty girl, and she has the perfect features, and she got her nails done, and she got her hair done, and she looking real good. And I'm gonna look at myself, I'm gonna be like, there's gonna be that, that slight moment, but you have to just, I feel like it's talking to yourself and just being like, hey, like, cut it off. Or I'm just reminding yourself that you look good just moving on or something like that. Just having that inner positive self-talk.
Definitely. I see where you're coming from with that. I see where you're coming from. Um, Transitioning more into sort of your journey at UCO, you were recently the Miss International UCO, and you recently passed the crown down, right? So if you could talk to me about your experience of doing that and sort of, I guess, using that as a channel to bring your culture to campus, what was that like for you as an experience as a whole?
Hmm. I mean, just going for the pageant, just competing in general was like it was really exciting to me, I'm not gonna call myself like I'm not gonna say, some people say they're really competitive. I'm not. So I went in there just to like, what's a good way to say it? Just to, for the experience, for the experience, and just, and it was like really, really amazing working with Samantha and all the other, how do we call all the other contestants. Yeah, it was really fun, like learning the dance routine, coming up with a platform. Samantha really helped a great deal. Just like coming up, I was really scared because do I have a good platform? Because you had to have a good platform to like, maybe win the competition. So just coming up with a platform that was really like close to your heart and being able to share your culture to like, dressing up in your traditional wear. The dance I did was a traditional dance. So that was really fun. Even hosting IFES. Like, I'm going to say I'm introverted, extroverted. So, like, talking in front of a big crowd, I get kind of scared, hold back. But, like, just hosting that event, too, was, like, really cool and just helped me. I feel like being international helped me step out of my bubble, and like just seeing the contestants after me prepare for me to hand over my crown to them. I saw a lot of fear at the beginning. They were not confident, but when I saw them on stage, they brought their A game, and like I feel like that's the essence of the pageant, just to show you that you're able to do what you never thought you could. Stand in front of the crowd and represent your country. So.
Yeah, it's a wild experience. I mean, because I've also experienced it myself, so it's interesting how, like that journey of a pageant, and also like in some sense, you tend to meet new people. It sort of helps you network, I guess, in some sense,
Yeah, and
if you
meet
want to
some
put it
really good
that way.
friends. Yeah. It's like a little
Definitely.
family. Like I still see all of them on campus, and I say hi. We're really close. So I like expanded the people that I know. So that was really nice.
Hmm. Definitely. What are some things that you took away from that journey as like in terms of maybe lessons or some things that you could learn from? Generally speaking, like maybe 3 to 5 lessons if you have that many, or whatever you want to share
Huh.
about that.
Okay. I'll say I learned how to be like bold.
Hmm.
To be able to go out there and say all that. Like my heart was like it was beating pretty fast, but I learned how to work with pressure. I learned how to be bold, and I learned how to be able to. I guess bold and talking in front of the crowd is the same thing, but just being bold, being outspoken, working under pressure, and just how to relate to other people because you were in a pageant and you had to treat every other person respectfully. So yeah, those are like my three highlights.
Awesome. Transitioning into like what you're studying right now in school and sort of what you want to do with it. You mentioned that you're studying, or your
MIS,
major is
management.
MIS, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So what gravitated you towards wanting to pick that up as a major?
All right, it's a crazy story. I was an accounting major. Now, if you ask me why I wanted to do accounting, I didn't really have a clear path. But I know when I was like way younger, I remember like back home, someone was like saying, accounting is what's hot on the market. Accountants are making a lot of money. Yada 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 yada. So that's how I was like, okay, I'm gonna do accounting, and it just stuck with me from like I'm gonna say elementary because our school classifications are different. So I'm thinking that was like middle, no, not elementary. Sorry, this should be like middle school, I believe. And it just stuck with me. So I came here and I was like, I'm doing accounting, I'm doing accounting, I'm doing accounting, and then I just took some 2 classes in accounting, and I was just like, I don't think this is for me. Like, I was just like, I don't think this is gonna work. And then I heard I was gonna do finance, and then I heard about MIS and how it has a tech side to it, and it's considered a STEM major. And I was just like, maybe I can try that. I'm not terrible at computers, and I know tech is hot on the market right now. So just getting a background in education and undergrad in tech will set me up. But I know you don't have to go to school for tech. You can take a lot of certifications here and there, which will also put you up there. So that's how I was an accounting major before. Crazy switch to MIS. I like tech. I don't really think I will cope in accounting with the numbers, because I know when I came to college, people were like, "You're an accountant?" I was like, "I'm an accountant major." Like, "You're good with numbers." I was like, "Not really," but yeah. So I just think MIS is a better fit for me. Now that I'm going through it, and taking the classes, I'm just like, this isn't bad at all. I think this is better for me compared to accounting, because it's more of it's not really about the numbers, but if you don't know what to do with the numbers, you're not going to pass classes. That's what I tell people. You have to understand the concepts behind everything to be able to use the numbers correctly, and that wasn't working with me past accounting too. So
Yeah, definitely. I think there's that assumption, right? Like if you're a math major or like a math related major, like a lot of the times the assumption is that you're good with numbers. But I'm curious to know, like, what was your sort of mind space when you were making that transition from accounting to MIS? Was it an easy switch to make, or did it take a lot of thought and a lot of like did it come with a lot of self doubt and some challenges mentally before you made that change? So how did you just navigate that? If you'd like to, yeah.
I mean, of course, it came with challenges. I have to explain to my mom, why I'm switching my major instead of taking an extra semester. It's going to cost me more. I'm an international student too, so it's kind of my career path was already planned out. I was going to be a CPA with accounting. I was going to take the CPA exam. I was going to become a CPA. Just keep rolling. I had a plan all figured out, and then and I get here and I'm just like, I don't think I want to do accounting. And I'm talking to her and she's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, she just wants to make sure, "Are you sure?" And she asked me to talk because I have a cousin who did finance. So I had to consult with him, and he was like, "They're not trying to tell you what to do, but everyone keeps asking me, are you really sure?" And then I know I met with the advisor for MIS, and she told me he's going to take me an extra semester. And I'm like, that's not bad. I'm not running, so an extra semester isn't bad at all. And it came with a lot of doubt because I was like, am I sure? Am I gonna like this new major? But I told myself I have to graduate. There's no jumping around anymore, because the more you shift, the more classes you kind of have to take, and it's more expensive. So I just told myself, hey, you get just one switch, so we have to make it count, and I'm hoping it counts because I switch for MIS and I have to graduate in the next 2 semesters. So yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. You said how you had this sort of template of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and that's next, and that's next, and that's next. And then after you moved here, everything sort of changed. So I'm
I
just
mean,
curious to know what you think. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Do you want to add to that?
I mean, it didn't change until after 3 years, because I was still an accounting major for the big majority for the past 3 years. I kind of changed when I was about to become a senior. So
Right, right. Okay. But yeah, my question was going to be from that sort of what you just said. I'm curious to know what you think about this. Can we ever have a solid plan for the future?
no, that's one thing I'm gonna tell you is no. I've heard this from grown-ups because I mean, there's no solid plan. You had people who went to college for insane majors and they're doing something else. They're content creators. There are people who go to law school and they come out and they want to do psychology. There's no clear path for the future. It's ever changing. You know, Even a doctor. I know a doctor I don't know his name, but he became a comedian. So it's like there's no clear path. Even me doing MIS right now is just, I mean, I've already invested that much money, so I need to go ahead and get that degree. But there's no clear path for the future. That's what I have to say. You might have it figured out for like 3 years or so, but it can change. It can change. Like change is constant. There's no clear path. That's what I have to say. Yeah, anything can jump on you. Like anything can happen, and you find yourself like maybe being an Uber driver for a minute, or it's crazy. But yeah, there's no clear path. That's what I have to say. Because I know I'm doing MIS. I don't think I will. I'm also trying to do my dance. So when my dance gets better, I will be like 100% like a dance teacher or coach, having my own like studio where I teach people how to dance.
Cool, cool. Just to sort of expand on the topic that we were talking about, why is it that we still try to make these solid plans in that case then? I'm just curious to know what you think.
Like why we try to make the plans even though we know it's like subject to change.
Yeah, like why do we go in thinking that this is how we want it or this is how you're going to make it work, while in reality we know that the it's you can sometimes face a lot of challenges and that it might not go the way that we want it to go. Why do you think that we still do that? I'm curious to know what you think. That's all.
I mean, I feel like you still need a plan because if you don't have a plan, you're gonna go like in so many directions. It's gonna be crazy. You still need some kind of guidance and direction for your life. That's why I think you need a plan. Even getting a degree, you need it. You need a. You just need. I don't know. It's hard. I think it's hard picking when you're really young too, because you don't really know what you want to do. You don't know what you're interested in, but everything serves a purpose, I believe. So, whatever degree you feel like you want to get right now, whatever you think will be beneficial, I feel like you should do it. The background and the foundation is really important. So it doesn't, I mean, just like the 4 years you spend in college and building yourself up, just all that, it forms you and shapes you and molds you into this person. So I just feel like, you still need a plan, even though you don't know tomorrow. Because if you don't have a plan, you're gonna do every other thing. You're just gonna be everywhere, and you don't want to be everywhere. You need to be somewhere. So it helps you be more guided. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from because you don't. I guess from one perspective, you don't want to be running around like a headless chicken, not knowing what step to take next. So
That's
I understand what you're saying.
good.
Thank you, thank you. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from in that sense.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's also like being able to sort of detach yourself from that plan, right? Like knowing that when you have to take a detour, you have to take a detour. I
Yeah.
think that's something that we tend to struggle with as humans too sometimes.
I mean, that's hard, especially like for me, growing up in the African community. If I went somewhere, I mean, it's changing a lot with my generation of people. But like, okay, I'm gonna talk about my aunt, who's like, in her 40s, and I remember saying how I want to do something with dance, and I want to maybe like have a dance studio because right now we used to go like for a dance class where we just used to do like some cardio and vibe to some African music, and I was like, I want to do that too. And then she was just very quick to say, that's gonna be on the side, right? Like that's not gonna be your main job. Like you're not gonna introduce yourself to people saying you're a dancer, right? Like so they're just very against every other thing that is not a white collar job, that is not maybe a BSN, a medical doctor. So so yeah, that's why it can be hard. The way you grew up, it was being ingrained in you. You were told like, hey, you have to do this and this and this. You can't do that. Like you have to do this and that. So like I feel like that's why it's hard. But coming up with our generation, we're encouraging our kids to do anything. You know, like people who do sports make so much money from doing sports. But left to an African, like I'm gonna say like an African parents, they're gonna be like, hey, you need to be a doctor. You need to be a nurse. But like basketball players and football players, they make like I don't know how they make like so much more money compared to like no offense to anyone like a physician or like or just I'm just talking randomly, but we just need to encourage our kids to think outside the box. That's what I think. But after we're in this little box, and there's so much more possibility outside of the box, so that's why I feel it may be difficult for us to accept. Oh, like I can be a nurse anymore. I'm really good at content creating. Like I'm really good at showing people how to dress up, put makeup on, just anything. So that's why I feel like it's difficult because of how we were raised and like we were told repeatedly, like, ah, nobody does that. You have to do this. You have to do, yeah,
Yeah, I see where you're coming from because a lot of that happens in India too, to where
hmm
parents would wish for their kids to take the more conventional route of
yes,
making their money
conventional,
and like sort of, yeah, or sort of making a career path or,
yeah,
yeah, sort of choosing your career, so to speak. But I
yeah,
guess that's the beauty of the world that we live in today, right? To where
yeah,
there's many different ways that we can make an income through expressing our talents or be it whatever else there is out there in the world. Like you mentioned, sports people make a ton of money. Like the soccer
yeah.
players that make 300 to 400,000 dollars a
That's
week,
great. Like
and
I'm
that's
thinking
people's
about
salary
it.
for a year,
That's what I'm trying to.
right?
I told my sister, I'm like, I'm trying to get all my kids into sports because I'm trying to get them into sports. I'm getting them to be good at it, good at sports.
Yeah, I guess there's a flip side argument to that by saying that it's mainly the top, I guess, 2 to 3% of those players that make that much money. But
I
anyway,
know.
to sort of, yeah, to sort of wind down our conversation, since we sort of brought up the fact that we live in a more, I guess, open world in terms of the career paths and things that we have. What are some other positives that you take away from the world that we live in today?
That's a broad question.
I mean, you can explore it as you wish.
Hmm. What are the positives that I? Can you say the question one more time?
Sure. Yeah. What are the positives that you take away from the world that we live in today?
I mean, alright. One, I'll say the fact that like a random stranger, like there's still kindness. Like, the fact that a random stranger can just like help you through a difficulty rather than your own family member, like someone that you've known for a long time is still like one of the wow factors. Like, like you never know who is gonna help you in a time of need. That's one of them because I've experienced it too. Number two, I'll just say this question is tough. Um, I'll just say Jesus to me because my faith is really important. So Jesus, you know, Jesus just being here for me. There's something bigger than myself to believe in and look up to is definitely a plus for me because it can get overwhelming if I rely just on precious because precious will get tired. I'm gonna laugh in an area, but I just feel like just having someone else to look up to as your source of relief and strength for me is like amazing. Three, you're like okay. Uh, uh, 10, 10. And just like community. I'd say that's a big one because no one's an island. I'm just looking for the word. No one's an island, so just community. Even if you have just one or two friends, there's still community. Someone to do life with. I'm not necessarily talking about a partner. That's a good deal, but I'm just talking about having friends or family or just some people to like check up on you and you check up on like vice versa. So those are the three like takeaways I have.
Beautiful, awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned how faith helps you, and also the fact that we can rely on a community to sort of help ourselves in many ways. That's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
really important.
Thank you so much for answering all the questions I had, Precious. I really appreciate
Sure.
it.
Yeah, this was
Yeah, we're going to
fun.
transition into the. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you had fun. We're going to transition into the word association game called Bish
Okay.
Bash Bosh, where basically I'll give you 5 different words, one at a time, and you have to respond to each word in 3 other words or 3 other phrases. For those of you who are new around here and listening to the podcast for the first time, I also have clips of these segments go on the Instagram page at Random Relatability. So if you want to check those out, you can always click the link in the description to the Instagram page and check that out. But yeah, before we get, or without further ado, let's get into the first word, differences. What are the 3 things that call out to you when you hear that word?
Oh God, this is like thinking on the spot. I don't think I'm good with that. Okay, you said differences, and I have to make sentences, or Come again?
It can just be words. It can just be words, like the three words that come to you first, like the three words that are just floating in your head as you
When
hear
I
the
hear the
word
word
differences.
differences,
Correct.
um, differences. We're gonna like racial inequality. When I hear differences, racial inequality, um, differences. Just like the human race, like how we're all different and unique in our own way. So the human race, differences. Maybe like differences, like when you have a struggle with someone, or you guys have like difficulty relating to each other. Differences. So
Awesome. The second word is nuance. What are the three things that float in your head when you hear the word nuance?
okay, I'm gonna need some definition just to make sure I'm on point. What's the
Sure.
definition?
Uh, well, it's I don't have the exact definition. I can probably try looking it up.
Yeah.
But in like to sort of explain it, it's the existence of gray. Because a lot of the times we see things in binary, we see things as just black and white. But then there is a lot of gray. Like there is a lot of subtlety in the world that we don't necessarily observe. Like that is what nuance means.
Okay.
So it's not just one or the other. There's a lot in between that we probably don't see.
Okay. Nuance. I need to expand my vocab. Okay. When I hear trouble, because I think a nuance is like something you want to like maybe get rid of. So I'm hearing like trouble, disagreement.
Interesting. Okay.
I hope that's what I picked up from like your definition.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Again, that's whatever comes to your mind is what you can share. That's totally fine.
Nuance.
That's totally fine.
Nuance. Uh, I don't really know. Time out.
Okay, no worries. No worries. It's
Okay,
okay. We're
yeah.
going to transition into the third word, which is
Sure.
learning. What are the three things that call out to you when you hear
Oh
the
my
word
god.
learning?
Learning, new, fresh, refined, um, new opportunity, growth. Like so, I could say like I could go on and on. But learning, amazing.
Awesome. The fourth word is empathy.
Just putting yourself in someone's shoes. Putting yourself in someone's shoes. Understanding someone, not just on the surface, but taking a moment to go deeper. Compassion. Just, being compassionate. Reaching out. So like helping someone. So that's what I have for empathy.
Gotcha. And the last word for this segment is similarities.
That's a good word. Similarities. Similarities. I feel like a focal point or a common, focal point. I'll say that. What brings us together, and what makes us united. What makes us be stronger. That's what I'll say. What makes us united. What makes us one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for playing along on this segment of Bish Bash Bosh Precious. Just two more questions before we're done. Well, the last
Okay.
one's not really a question, but the
Okay.
first one is, how do you relate to people?
How do I relate to people? I need more context. Like your questions, I feel like they're really broad.
I mean, the reason why it's broad is because I want you to explore it the way you want to explore it. So,
Dang.
how do you choose to relate to people? I mean, everybody does it differently.
Okay.
So, however you want to explore it.
I think I choose to relate to people with kindness, and what's by the golden rule. So treating them the way I would want to be treated. Just giving out what I want to see in the universe. So I'll say it's many things. It's kindness. It's the golden. I feel like the golden rule pretty much sums everything up. Just treating them the way I would want to be treated. That's how I try to relate with almost anyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, the last question, like I said, is not really a question, but it's more of a parting thought. So, if there's anything you'd like to share with the listeners and watchers, um, feel free to do so. The floor is yours.
I'm even on the spot. I don't know what to say.
If you want to share just your socials, you can mention that as well, or
Okay.
mention a parting thought, whatever you choose to do.
All right. Okay, so my Instagram, I'm gonna shout out my Instagram. My Instagram is callme_BolaP. So y'all go ahead and follow me, like my videos. You know, I'm an aspiring dancer and content creator. What do I have to close up saying? There's so much hope in the world, even though everything looks bad right now. Just don't give up and persist, and you're gonna make it through. So my finals, like what I'm saying, is like, don't give up. You got this.
Awesome. Well, that's a beautiful note to close off on. I'll make sure to link Precious's Instagram in the description of the show notes. But thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate you wanting to answer all of these broad questions and sort of sharing your perspective on a lot of these things. So thank you so much, Precious. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. You know, I've been thinking about starting my own podcast, so this kind of gave me like, you know, a view of, because I want to talk on relationships. I love to talk and just learn about relationships. So this gives me like some kind of insight as to what I'm going to call my podcast. And I know the girl I want to start it with, she lives in like Germany. So just, you know, learning about this platform. So just thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. And good luck to you on that, by the way. But yeah,
you.
for those of you listening, of course. And for those of you listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to follow Precious on our social media channels, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time. Bye.